Tonight, we're not just discussing a minor altercation, a simple disagreement over a fare. We're confronting a fundamental breakdown of trust in Bengaluru's ride-hailing ecosystem, a system millions rely on daily for their commutes and essential travel. This incident forces us to question the very foundation upon which these services are built. In March 2025, a Rapido passenger faced a terrifying ordeal, a situation no one should ever experience when simply trying to get from one place to another. An auto rickshaw driver allegedly demanded extra money, an inflated fare beyond what was agreed upon or displayed on the app, and when refused, allegedly resorted to threats, intimidation, and ultimately, a slap. This act of violence transcends a mere argument. It's a blatant assault. This isn't just about a fare dispute, it's about power, control, and the abuse of a position of service. It's about the vulnerability of every citizen who trusts these platforms to provide safe and reliable transportation, expecting nothing more than a peaceful journey. The incident has sparked widespread outrage and raised tough questions about the safety and security measures in place. Are app-based rides truly safe, or are we simply lulled into a false sense of security by the convenience they offer? Or are they, in some cases, breeding grounds for harassment, exploitation, and even violence, hidden beneath the veneer of technological efficiency? This case exposes a growing rift between passengers and drivers, a concerning trend that threatens the integrity of the entire ride-hailing system. A relationship increasingly filled with mistrust, suspicion, and outright hostility, eroding the basic principles of respectful service. We must ask, how did a simple ride, a routine transaction, devolve into violence, leaving a passenger feeling violated and unsafe? The passenger, like countless others, expected a safe and uneventful journey, a basic expectation when utilizing a paid service, but instead faced extortion, threats, and physical assault, a complete betrayal of the trust placed in the service provider and the driver. What safeguards, if any, do these companies have in place to protect their passengers from such egregious acts? Is simply connecting a driver to a rider through an app enough to ensure safety and prevent potential harm? This incident serves as a stark wake-up call, a harsh reminder that technology alone cannot guarantee safety or prevent human misconduct. Because behind every app interface and algorithm lies a human interaction, an encounter that can, as we've seen, go dangerously wrong. The responsibility for passenger safety extends far beyond the app's functionality and falls squarely on the shoulders of the ride-hailing companies. It's about proactively ensuring that every journey is not only convenient, but also demonstrably secure and free from the threat of harassment or violence. Tonight, we put this deeply troubling incident under the microscope, refusing to shy away from the uncomfortable truths it reveals, examining every detail, scrutinizing every angle, and demanding answers from those who are responsible. This incident represents a failure not just of an individual driver, but of the entire company's safety protocols and oversight mechanisms. A failure of adequate regulation, a failure to enforce standards of decency, and a failure to protect the very people who rely on these services. The people of Bengaluru, and indeed people everywhere, deserve to feel safe, respected, and protected when they hail a ride, regardless of the platform they choose. The nation demands accountability from these companies and from the regulatory bodies that are supposed to oversee them. And we won't let this deeply concerning issue be swept under the rug or forgotten. We will continue to demand transparency, action, and meaningful change. Let's get to the heart of the conflict, the core issue that sparks so much frustration and debate in the world of ride-hailing. It all boils down to a demand for extra money, an unexpected surcharge that throws the entire agreement into disarray. The passenger, in this instance, booked a Rapido ride with a set fare, a price clearly displayed and agreed upon before the journey even began. This system is designed for convenience and transparency. No haggling, no hidden fees, just a straightforward and predictable cost. Yet, despite this clear agreement, the driver insisted that the app-calculated fare was simply too low, inadequate to compensate for their time and expenses. And so, they demanded more money from the passenger, an additional sum beyond what the app had quoted. This wasn't presented as a voluntary tip, a gesture of appreciation for good service. Instead, it was framed as a non-negotiable surcharge, an obligatory payment that the passenger had no choice but to accept. The passenger, understandably, refused to comply with this demand. They stood their ground, asserting their rights as a customer and defending the integrity of the app's pricing system. which they believed should be honored. This refusal, however, triggered a negative reaction from the driver, who became visibly angry and agitated. What began as a simple disagreement over fare quickly escalated into a heated confrontation, a tense exchange filled with frustration and resentment. Demands for extra money are unfortunately a legacy issue in Bengaluru's traditional auto rickshaw scene, where haggling over fares is commonplace. Now, this problematic practice is increasingly infecting the world of app-based rides, undermining the very principles of transparency and fair pricing that these platforms are supposed to uphold. Drivers often cite rising fuel costs and other economic pressures as justification for demanding extra payment. But for passengers, the app-displayed fare represents a binding contract, a clear agreement on the price of the ride. When drivers leverage their control of the vehicle, essentially holding the passenger captive to demand more money than agreed upon, it transcends a simple financial transaction and becomes a power play, a demonstration of dominance and control. In some cases, it can even feel like a hostage-like situation, where the passenger feels trapped and vulnerable. Passengers are then faced with a difficult choice, a no-win scenario. They can choose to pay the extra amount, even if they disagree with it, simply to avoid further conflict and reach their destination in peace. Or they can stand firm, refusing to be bullied into paying more than the agreed-upon fare, but risk escalating the situation and potentially facing further harassment or even danger. In this particular case, the passenger chose to stand firm, refusing to give in to the driver's demands. And unfortunately, they paid the price for their principles, experiencing the negative consequences of challenging the driver's authority. The dispute at that point became less about the money itself and more about dominance, about who had the upper hand in the situation. It was no longer just about money, but about principle, about fairness, and about the erosion of trust. This is the critical point where trust in the entire ride-hailing system begins to crumble, where passengers start to question the reliability and fairness of the service. The fundamental ride-hailing promise of safety, convenience, and above all, fairness, the very foundation upon which these platforms are built, is ultimately at stake, threatening the long-term viability and sustainability of this mode of transportation. The passenger's account is chilling, a stark reminder of how quickly a seemingly ordinary situation can escalate. What began as a routine ride, a simple transaction of transportation, turned into a nightmare scenario for the unsuspecting passenger. The trouble started after the passenger refused to pay an extra charge, a deviation from the agreed-upon fare displayed on the app. Allegedly, the driver's reaction was far from professional. He reportedly became verbally abusive, his tone escalating with each passing moment. The situation intensified as the driver allegedly threatened violence, creating an atmosphere of fear and intimidation within the confines of the vehicle. The situation reached a shocking climax when the driver ultimately slapped the passenger, a blatant act of physical assault. By all accounts, the passenger did nothing wrong. They were simply trying to adhere to the terms of service. The passenger just followed the app's rules, trusting in the system and expecting a safe and uneventful journey to their destination. To make matters worse, the ordeal was compounded by alleged xenophobic abuse directed at the passenger for not knowing Kannada, the local language. This language-based discrimination added another layer of hostility and discomfort to an already terrifying experience. Now, before we rush to judgment, let's attempt to consider the driver's possible perspective, understanding that it in no way excuses the alleged actions. Many drivers claim that app fares are often too low, barely covering their expenses and time. High operating costs, coupled with the app's commission fees, can significantly eat into their earnings, leaving them with very little profit. For some drivers, these extra charges might be seen as a means of survival, a way to supplement their meager income. This is especially true after battling the city's notorious traffic, which can turn a short trip into a lengthy and fuel-consuming ordeal. However, it's crucial to remember that frustration, no matter how justified, is never an excuse for aggression or violence. Economic hardship, while a real and pressing issue, does not justify threats, physical assault, or any form of abuse. Drivers' grievances and concerns should be addressed through proper channels by communicating with the rideshare company and seeking constructive solutions. These issues should never be taken out on passengers who are simply customers seeking a service. By resorting to violence, the driver crossed a line that cannot be defended regardless of the circumstances. This isn't a story of equal sides or a balanced conflict. It's a clear case of abuse of power. It's a story of a passenger's terrifying ordeal and a driver's inexcusable misconduct, plain and simple. The incident sadly exposes the potential dangers that can lurk behind even the most mundane everyday commutes. Professionalism, respect, and safety must be non-negotiable cornerstones of the rideshare experience. Anything less is a profound betrayal of public trust and a serious threat to passenger safety. In public confrontations like this, witnesses are crucial, but often silent. In this case, few onlookers have come forward, a common reality in busy cities. The bystander effect means people hesitate to intervene, fearing trouble or police involvement. Yet even a single witness could corroborate the passenger's story and help ensure justice. Silence emboldens aggressors and isolates victims. As a society, we must ask, do we turn away or help? The safety of our streets depends on collective responsibility. The Rapido slapping incident isn't isolated. It's part of a disturbing pattern in Bengaluru's ride-hailing scene. In February 2025, a passenger reported a driver who allegedly tried to stab him over an AC dispute. Another viral video showed a heated argument over routes. In March, a techie was threatened by a driver after refusing to cancel a ride, with abuse continuing long after the trip. There are even reports of sexual harassment by drivers. These aren't just customer service failures, they're criminal acts. The pattern is clear. Extortion, threats, assault, and harassment are becoming alarmingly common. This points to a systemic failure in the gig economy model. Drivers face high stress and low pay, but passengers are bearing the brunt of their frustration. Companies like Rapido must be held accountable for the culture they've created. Public trust is eroding with every incident. The city demands real solutions, not just apologies. Why are these conflicts so common? The root cause is money. Drivers feel app fares are too low, so they demand extra from passengers. For drivers, it's survival. For passengers, it's extortion. Disputes over routes add fuel. Drivers trust their knowledge. Passengers trust the app. The cancel ride trick is another flashpoint, with drivers pressuring passengers to go offline. The gig economy's relentless pressure dehumanizes both sides. Drivers are stressed, overworked, and underpaid. Passengers see the ride as a transaction, not an interaction. This lack of empathy and constant tension turns minor issues into major confrontations. The system, in its pursuit of efficiency, is stripping away humanity. Until these root causes are addressed, conflicts will keep erupting. The model itself needs urgent reform. In Bengaluru, language should unite, not divide, but in ride-hailing disputes, it often becomes a weapon. The Rapido driver allegedly berated the passenger for not knowing Kannada, turning a fare dispute into a cultural clash. Language barriers escalate tensions, making de-escalation nearly impossible. Drivers may see non-Kannada speakers as outsiders. Passengers feel targeted and isolated. This communication gap is often exploited to intimidate. In a diverse city, linguistic friction can quickly become a flashpoint. Companies must do more multi-language support, and basic language training are essential. Without proactive measures, language will keep fueling conflict. Safe, inclusive rides depend on bridging this divide. When incidents like this occur, all eyes turn to the company and the police. Rapido typically suspends the driver and issues a statement. But is that enough? Suspension is a start, but prevention is key. Are background checks and complaint systems robust? Police urge victims to file FIRs, but many hesitate, fearing hassle or retaliation. Underreporting lets aggressive drivers keep operating. Effective oversight requires seamless cooperation between companies and law enforcement. Companies must share data quickly. Police must make reporting safe and easy. Both must be proactive, not just reactive. Public safety depends on real accountability and decisive action. Anything less betrays public trust. In light of these incidents, every passenger must take safety seriously. Before your ride, verify the vehicle and driver details. Never board if they don't match. Share your trip with someone you trust using the app's features. If a dispute arises, stay calm and avoid escalation. State your position clearly. Use the in-app emergency button if you feel threatened. If pressured for extra payment, sometimes it's safer to pay and report later. Your safety comes first. Always file a complaint in the app after any incident detailing what happened. If you're threatened or assaulted, report it to the police and file an FIR. Provide all app details to authorities. Reporting helps protect future passengers. Stay alert, stay safe, and never compromise on your right to a secure journey. Your vigilance is part of the solution. Together, we can demand safer rides for all. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.